Today I'm here to say Rescue Ace is the deck to beat, and while there's other decks in the format that you could easily choose from, this super consistent deck that can OTK out of nowhere can be teched out in so many different ways. It's hard to argue, but this feels like the best deck of the format. What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of Cards and Coffee, where today I'm going to be digging into my current Rescue Ace deck list. There really are so many different ways to tech this deck out, and that's what makes it so great. But before we go over all the techs I decided to play, go grab yourself a cup of coffee or something. That way you guys can sit down and tune in. Alright, so like I mentioned, there are so many decks in this format, and a bunch of them I love playing, but I do find myself falling back on this deck quite often. So for the Rescue Ace lineup, I think it's pretty standard. I'm running 2 Hydrant alongside 2 Turbulence, 2 of the Preventer, 3 copies of Airlifter, and 1 copy of Impulse. And of course, for our Rescue Ace spells and traps, we have the 3 Emergency, the 1 Rescue, 1 Alert, 1 HQ, and the Contain and Extinguish. No matter what variant you're playing, basically every Rescue Ace engine looks fairly similar, just really it comes down to how many Impulse you play. I have really been loving the Ricardetto build, and again, there are other variants you can play, but I think this just gets you the best bang for your buck when it comes to 1-card combos. Not only do you get the Baron and the SP insulating your board with great interruptions while setting 4, but you also get to search follow-up or Impulse in the process, and while playing the Firewall build sounds nice because you don't have that many breaks in your deck, you really have to just sacrifice almost half of your extra deck just to play that combo, and to me, I just don't like wasting those kinds of resources, especially with something like Prosperity in the deck. Also, in case you don't know what the Ricardetto combo is, I'll go ahead and show it at the end of the video, so make sure you stick around for it in case you don't know what it does. The nice thing about this build though is that Ricardetto is an extender, plus Durandal is essentially a Rhoda, so it just adds more consistency when you're going second. Of course, we're also playing Reinforcements of the Army because again, it searches our main 1-card starter, but when it comes down to it, I really don't think there's an incorrect build. I just think you have to play one of the ones that put up an Omni Negate. But that's it for the Rescue Ace cards. Now moving on to our Sinful package. Currently my lineup is pretty small. I'm just going with 3 of the Wanted, 1 of the Snake Eye, and of course 1 of the Black Witch. I'm constantly fluctuating between 1 and 2 Black Witch. I really appreciate the consistency that's added by playing multiple copies. Heck, there was even a time I was playing 3 because again, these are just some of the best cards in this deck. And then the last consistency or engine card for this deck is 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. I'm still surprised to see so many people talk about how it conflicts with Wanted, but I really don't think it's that big a deal. Sure, after you make your board, now you can't draw a card, but on the next turn, now you'll have both spells in the grave, so essentially you can search a level 1 and then draw a card, so you actually get more advantage by doing it that way. But again, this is all fairly standard, nothing too fancy. And when it comes to non-engine, there really is so many cards that this deck can benefit from. But for me, I'm keeping it pretty simple, just 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Effect Veiler alongside 3 copies of Imperm. I just think these are the best hand traps in the format right now, and there are times I take Effect Veiler out for something like more board breakers, but with how diverse this format is, I just like having the security of having all these hand traps. And one of my favorite cards in this deck, hands down, is Enemy Controller. There are going to be some matchups that this card is very average, but it is such a blowout card when going second. There's even times where you can use it to dodge attacks or steal your opponent's monsters on their turn. This card is super versatile and can dodge so many things like Veiler and Imperm as well. Maybe you don't need 3, but every time I resolve this card, it feels extremely high impact. And while it's not something like Forbidden Droplet or a Super Polymerization, this card is just so flexible in the format right now. But one of my favorite cards I have in this deck is Instant Fusion. Obviously, you can use it to bring out Mud Dragon. It protects your field from targeting. It's great against Veiler, great against Imperm. In the mirror match, it's really clutch. There's so many matchups actually that Mud Dragon is so insane. Targeting is super relevant. I mean, heck, SP Little Knight is in basically everybody's deck, so this card's gonna have an application at some point. But one of my favorite cards I've added to the mix is the Millennium Eyes Restrict. We'll talk about it more when we get to the extra deck, but the card has been so clutch, not only at stopping hand traps, but breaking board boards as well. Millenniumize really is a card that catches so many people off guard, and for that reason, I just absolutely love it. Now, before we hop into the extra deck, I just want to showcase these beautiful brushed art sleeves from Dragon Shield. These have quickly become my favorite sleeves to use on the extra deck, especially when they're double sleeved by the Dragon Shield oversleeves. If you're looking to get sleeves like these, make sure you click my affiliate link down below. Not only is there a wide array of sleeves to choose from, but any purchase you make using that link, a portion of that profit comes back to the channel, helping me make content for you. Now, for our first monsters, we've already talked about them. One of my favorite cards, Millenniumize Restrict, and of course the Mud Dragon. I've already talked about these briefly, but these cards are so great in the deck, and even though Instant Fusion is a one-of, we do have Prosperity to help dig for it. Another thing that's really cool about this card is it's a Dark Spellcaster, so not only do you set up Dark Charmer, but you set up Selene, and of course Access Code Talker as well, because Instant Fusion counts as a fusion summon, so you can bring it back as well. Plus, the Mud Dragon does come up when we're going up against something like Unchained and Tearlament, because it helps us set up our Abyss Dweller as well. You could use Puzzle Amino or Proxy Magician to set this one card rank 4 up. I am opting to run one more Exceed though. We have the Typhon. This card is so crazy, and it's not something you have to play, but for me it comes up all the time. This deck is so good at picking apart boards and just sticking monsters on the field, and while there will be times that you can't break through everything, Typhon just makes it that much easier. Plus, in some matchups it's a pseudo floodgate. But moving on to the links, for the first one we have Link Karibo. You could go with Anima. I definitely want to because we're also playing the Restrict, but as you saw, we're not main decking Nibiru, so I don't need something to out those tokens, but it's definitely a solid option. I just don't know how I feel about those cards in the main deck right now with how diverse things are. Like I mentioned, we're doing the Ricardetto combo, so you need the Isolde, and alongside it, unfortunately, you need 2 copies of SP Little Knight. There are times where I wish I had a third because you do burn one in your first turn combo, but for now, I'm actually opting to run 1 IP Masquerena, and while it's not the go-to first turn combo, there are going to be a lot of hand traps this format, so don't be surprised if you can't go all the way to your end board. Masquerena is just an amazing thing to fall back on. That way you can turn all these bodies into something that can tag out into SP and create more interruptions on your opponent's turn. Now, as mentioned, we have the Dweller combo. I'm running the Proxy F Magician. I just feel like this is a lot more consistent to pull off. Dweller is also a 1-card combo that sets 4, so I can show you that at the end of the video as well. For the last Link 2s, I'm running both of the Charmers, the 1 Hida and the 1 Dark. Both of these come up all the time in so many matchups. These cards hands down are some of my favorite cards in this deck, just because we have Selene to go into Access Code Talker. And I mentioned it earlier, the last monster in our extra deck, Baron de Fleur, our Omni Negate, to help insulate our first turn combo. And yes, the Jet Synchron build can make these synchros as well, but again, those combos require 2 cards, whereas ours only requires 1. Alright, so combo number 1 is going to be the full board that you make with just 1 card. Any of the cards you see above, excluding Prosperity, gets you to this full combo. Make sure you stick around because we're also going to show the 1-card Abyss Dweller combo next, but for this, we're just going to assume we open the Airlifter. So, starting things off, of course, we're going to normal summon Airlifter and we're going to use its effect to search. Pretty straightforward. Emergency will get added to hand and then we'll activate it right away. Hydrant hits the field and then Emergency sends the Airlifter. Then we can use the Hydrant to search a monster, which in this case we're going to go ahead and add our Turbulence. Now we have 2 rescue cards in the grave, so we can special summon it by banishing them. Then of course we can use the effect to set 4. You're always grabbing both traps alongside alert, and there are times that you might want to grab another emergency, but more times than not it's going to be rescue. We'll set these randomly face down, and then we can activate the alert because we control Hydrant. This of course will add Preventer, and now we can of course banish the alert that's in the grave to summon it to the field. All pretty standard, and every Rescue Ace combo basically starts the same, but in this one we'll link these 2 off and we'll go ahead and make Little Knight. After that hits the field, now we can use our Preventer, bringing back the Airlifter from our banish zone. Now we have 2 warriors, so we can go ahead and link these 2 off and go straight into Isolde. On summon, Isolde will grab us a warrior, so you can grab another Airlifter for follow-up, or I guess you could also grab an Impulse as a hand trap. This is obviously the main reason we only play 1, because we can just pull it out of the deck when we're doing our combo. But then after that, we can go ahead and use Isolde's second effect. We can dump the Noble Arms to then summon Ricardetto. Once this hits the field, now we can use its effect to bring back the Airlifter. This will lock you into warriors, but you really don't care about that for the rest of the turn. I'm sure most of you know Baron DeFleur is a warrior as well, so we'll go ahead and synchro off this into our Baron, and now we can use our other two monsters to go into our second SP Little Knight. Again, Baron SP as our first turn board alongside both of our traps and the rescue to go ahead and bring back something like the Turbulence, the Hydrant, or even the Preventer. Plus, don't forget there's the Impulse, so even if you bring back the Hydrant, if your opponent uses a monster effect, you can then chain the Impulse and bring out something like another Preventer. I really do feel like this is the best bang for your buck. But let's hop into the one card Abyss Dweller combo because it comes up in so many matchups going first. Now, just like the last combo, this can be achieved with any of the same one-card starters. Just like last time, any of the ones above except for Prosperity will get you there, even though technically Prosperity can dig for something to get you there as well. But again, there's a bunch of two-card combos as well, but we'll assume we have Airlifter because that's the standard line. Once again, we'll use the effect. We'll go ahead and grab ourselves the Emergency. This is all pretty similar. We'll use the effect. Of course, we'll summon the Hydrant again, and we'll send the Lifter to grave. Just like last time, we'll add the Turbulence, and then of course, we'll banish these two to summon it to the field. Now we'll use the effect. We'll set 4. In this case, again, we're going to set the same 4 as last time. We'll randomly set all of them, and then we'll activate Alert to search. I'm sure this is all looking very familiar. We'll add the Preventer, then we'll summon it by banishing the Alert. Next, we'll link these two off, and we'll go into our Proxy F Magician. Now, Preventer can activate, and we can bring back this Airlifter, which is a level 4. And I think it's pretty straightforward. Now we can use the Proxy F Magician, and we can fuse with the Hydrant and itself. Mud Dragon will hit the field, and then obviously 2 level 4s. We can go into our Abyss Dweller, and we can flood them out of the game. We'll have 4 cards in hand, and again, the rescue can bring back the Hydrant, making all our traps live. Plus, the more combo pieces you open, you can build a better board alongside it. And don't forget, Instant Fusion can get you there as well without having to burn your Proxy F Magician. So that's going to wrap things up for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the combos and the deck list as well. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers, and I'm going to be having a huge giveaway with all my partners. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and here's hoping to see you on the next one. Peace.